For more than a century, we have placed great emphasis on educating our nation's youth on civic responsibility, flag etiquette, and patriotism. In 1999, the National Citizenship Education Teacher Award was created to recognize teachers who strive to implement these values into their classroom curriculum. This year's award winners are three: exceptionally devoted Americans who undoubtedly fulfilled their responsibilities as citizens of the United States through the art of teaching. These three honorees were selected from across the nation for their originality and dedication to citizenship education. They have effectively encouraged our students to become better citizens by spreading knowledge of our nation's history, its institutions, and becoming involved in the community in which they live. Each recipient will receive a $1,000 Commander-in-Chief John Smart Award for personal development, and their schools likewise will receive a $1,000 award. I would like to take a moment to personally thank these three teachers and all of the teachers of the world. Without them, who knows where our country would be. They teach the leaders of tomorrow, and America is forever indebted to them for their service to our children and to this country. Thank you, teachers, and congratulations on the job well done. I'm proud to introduce to you the National Citizenship Education Teacher of the Year, representing grades K through 5, Mr. Matthew Maddox of Troy, Illinois. Hey, you brought your own crowd, didn't you? In 5 years, Mr. Maddox has been teaching 5th grade at Columbus Elementary Schools in Edwardsville, Illinois. He has provided his students with some extraordinary hands-on experiences. Not only has Mr. Maddox identified unique ways to teach about important core subjects, he has made a great effort to instill a sense of appreciation for the military in each of his students. Mr. Maddox's class successfully teamed up with Illinois Representative Dan Bessler to write a House resolution to recognize Iraq-Afghanistan War Remembrance Day in Illinois. The resolution gained overwhelming support and has passed into law. His class has also raised $800 to send 2 veterans via honor flight to visit World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C., and corresponded with local Pearl Harbor veterans to hear firsthand accounts of what happened that day. Mr. Maddox maintains an open invitation for local veterans to visit the class and share their military experiences with his students. As if in previous comments were not enough, to award him this award, Mr. Maddox has partnered with Southwest Airlines and the Academy of Model Aeronautics to demonstrate the art and science that go into engineering by teaching students to design, build, and fly 5 original radio-controlled model aircraft. He has also engaged his students in a near space balloon project using a military weather balloon to capture video images from the altitude of 76,500 feet. Matt Maddox is a prime example of what a teacher should be, continue giving his students real-life, unique lessons to teach them about the world around them, while also encouraging strong values and loyalty to our nation and to our veterans. Currently, Mr. Maddox and his class are in the process of dedicating a city street in honor of a local fallen hero. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Matthew Maddox, sponsored by VFW Post 1299 in Edwardsville, Illinois.
National Citizenship Education Teacher Award, grade level K through 5, presented to Matt Maddox, Columbus Elementary School, 2012-2013.
First, it's pretty easy to speak in front of 5th graders. You know, I speak for a living, but when I'm in front of a bunch of heroes and people who I look up to, it's a little bit more difficult, so excuse me if I'm a little bit nervous. And I was just going to go off the cuff, but then the other two teachers up here started writing notes down. I said, maybe I should do that too. So first, I just want to thank the VFW. Two individuals from the local VFW that I want to have stand and just be recognized real quick that mean a lot to me and have been very supportive are Russ Reiki and Larry Miller. If you could please stand from the Illinois delegation. So Larry came in my classroom and to do a presentation, and he said, how much time do I have? I said, you can have as much time as you want. He goes, well, 30 minutes is good. He was there for 2.5 hours. And the kids never lost a beat. They stayed engaged the whole time. And then Russ, I was talking with him, and I said, I've been trying for years to find a Pearl Harbor veteran to come speak to the kids. We've exchanged letters with different veterans and throughout Illinois. And he said, well, there's a veteran in Highland, Illinois, and I'd like to bring him in. So Dallas Harvey, Pearl Harbor veteran, was brought in by Russ Reiki to come talk to 125 fifth graders, firsthand account of what happened on Pearl Harbor. And those students, I see them during the summer, and I still have many of them mention that to me today, is it's a life experience that they'll remember for the rest of their life and be able to share that with their kids and their grandkids, that they actually had a chance to, that great opportunity to actually meet a Pearl Harbor veteran. I also want to thank Scott Fitzgerald, who nominated me for this award. Scott spent 10 years active duty in the Air Force as a pilot and is now a Southwest pilot, and we've partnered on so many different projects. Also my superintendent, Dr. Ed Hightower, who is very supportive of the military. In fact, he's a Patriot Employer Award winner in Illinois for his dedication to employees that are veterans. I myself in the Illinois Army National Guard, and he supported me when I enlisted, and now I'm currently going through officer training, and he has supported me all the way, so I just want to thank him. Just a few things that were mentioned. I feel very important to honor veterans. I'm very lucky to have my dad who's here. My dad and his parents are here today, or my dad and mom and their friends. And my dad was just retired in 2011 from the United States Air Force, both active and reserve. So I had a good role models in my life and taught me to appreciate veterans, look up to veterans, because they really set the standard high. And I really want to thank them. So thank you for raising me. And I know I was a terror, but, but I'm glad to say I calmed down a little bit. And then also, just so you guys know this, both of them, John Raymer and Jim Maddox, are eligible for the VFW, but they're not members. So if you can help me out with that, they really are looking forward to a couple recruiters going to talk to them very shortly. So you guys are going to help out with that, right?
Absolutely.
All right. And whenever I'm eligible, I will be joining. So. But again, I just want to say thank you. It is important to honor the top 1% because I always tell my students, listen, 1% of the population has served or currently serves in the military. And that's a pretty elite group of people. And those are the type of individuals that students should be looking up to, their parents, veterans, because the way veterans carry themselves, how professional they are, and the standard that they set high, and the attention to detail that they possess. And students can learn a great deal from them and a lot of life experiences. So that's why I invite veterans into my classroom anytime. I had probably 5 or 6 different veterans come and speak last year, and the students really enjoy hearing from them. And I partnered with Senator Bill Hayne and Representative Dwight Kay from my home district, and we won up the resolution this past year. It wrote Senate Bill 1703, which passed which amends the school code in Illinois to have October 7th, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans Day in Illinois. So that will be on the school calendar, and it will be dedicated every year once it is signed, which should be signed probably this week by the governor in Illinois, and will become law in Illinois. And that's very important that those. And also we partnered with them on House Joint Resolution 5 this past year, which dedicates a week to physical fitness in Illinois, which if any of these students want to be in the military, it definitely helps to be physically fit. So it definitely encourages and it ties into to the military as well. So again, thank you. And I'm really humbled by this award. and it makes me want to work harder and continue to partner with veteran organizations and continue to teach students and guide students in the right direction. Thank you.
Now I'll introduce the National Citizenship Education Teacher of the Year representing grades 6 through 8. Mr. Hunter Jones, an 8th grade history teacher at Will James Junior High School in Billings, Montana. Got his group with him too. Mr. Jones appears the community believes he upholds the values and provides the inspiration it takes to be awarded this esteemed VFW National Award, and we couldn't agree more. Walking into Mr. Jones' classroom, you're immediately greeted with the war artifacts that cover the walls, depicting all of the American wars. Mr. Jones teaches students about the sacrifices of our countrymen and women in a way that encourages students to adopt his unwavering patriotic support of our troops. While his classroom and teaching style provides enthusiasm and motivation to his students to learn all they can about our nation's history, Mr. Jones doesn't stop there. 11 years ago, he created an after-school program for his students called the Soldier Support Club. The club provides opportunity for them to collect and distribute supplies to our troops overseas. With his guidance and encouragement, Mr. Jones' students have shown their gratitude and commitment to our armed forces by sending over 12,000 letters and 5,000 packages to troops since 2003. These are quite impressive numbers, and we are grateful to Mr. Jones who set such a high standard for his students. Additionally, Mr. Jones has organized a Veterans Day Award Assembly. Students host local veterans and their families as guests of honor and sing patriotic songs in remembrance of our fallen heroes. Between coordinating care packages, writing letters to the troops, and teaching his students about patriotism and history, Mr. Jones has been previously recognized in his community for his outstanding teaching methods and commendable civic service. He has a collection of certificates of merit and flags from appreciative recipients of his students' work who have named and was named the 2009 Daughter of the American Revolution Montana Teacher of the Year, as well as the 2012 VFW Post 1634 and District 3 Teacher of the Year. Mr. Jones continually focuses on developing his students into mature young adults who can truly appreciate those who wear the uniform. He has demonstrated time and again his passion for community service and his dedication for the United States military. He is a patriot through and through, and we thank him for passing his ideals down to his students. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Hunter Jones, sponsored by VFW Post 1634 in Billings, Montana.
National Citizenship Education Teacher Award, grade level 6 through 8, presented to Hunter Jones, Will James Junior High School, 2012-2013.
Well, thank you very much. This is quite an honor. I would first like to thank the National Veterans of Foreign Wars for this honor. I would love to thank the state of Montana VFW for this honor, and especially District 3 and Post 1634, my friends over there, for this honor. For me, there is no greater award that I could ever receive than an award from the VFW, and I'll explain. I come from a military family, but although I came from a military family, I decided at a young age to be just a citizen. As a citizen, I was free to do what I want. I was free to raise a family the way I wanted. and I was free to choose a profession that I wanted. All the while, I was very conscious that someone else was paying the price for that freedom. When I got into teaching, it was a natural thing for me to want to teach American history. Teaching our history is a way for me to educate our young people the values and importance of our military. I teach from 1750 up to 1880. But even though it's not in my curriculum, I have always inputted emphasis in lessons on the value of our veterans. When I got to Billings, Montana in 1995, I was teaching there, and after 2 years, I had the idea to start asking my kids if any of their relatives were veterans, and I was surprised to see the hands that were raised. Billings, Montana is a center for many different Reserve and National Guard units. And so in 1998, I started having my students interview their relatives and bring in that information, and we started to have the kids make veterans certificates thanking them for their service from my school, Will James Middle School. Then later that year, we had all those veterans that were able to come to school and have my students give them the certificates they made. Well, that kind of just grew and grew and grew, that assembly, and we switched it over to Veterans Day, and we have continued with this program, inviting veterans from all around Billings and Yellowstone and Carbon County. And it has become a regular thing that I look forward to and the school looks forward to. As the years have gone by, we have lost so many World War II veterans, and now as time goes by, we're losing our Korean War veterans. But our Veterans Assembly continues. I'm lucky enough to have friends in the 189th National Guard Aviation Unit, and they have brought down a Black Hawk helicopter, weather permitting, every year for the kids to see. National Guard units and Reserve units bring over vehicles to Will James. It is just something that our community looks forward to. Now, after 9/11, of course, everything changed. And even before that, I was not aware of how many families in that area had ties to the military. And in 2012, I ran into an ex-student of mine. She was married, and I asked her what her husband does, and she said, well, Mr. Jones, Brian's in Afghanistan. And so I took that information and I asked Alexis if she would mind if I had my students write to Brian in Afghanistan. We have a fellow at my school, he teaches there, and he was in Vietnam, and he had told me once that in Vietnam he never got a single letter from anyone. And so with that thought, I decided to form this club, and we started to write letters to Brian. Well, he started to write back, and then we adopted his whole team over there in Afghanistan. And then I started asking my students, and hands started raising as that year went on. Class by class, kids would start to raise their hand or bring up a note to me saying that their brother, their mother, father, uncles, cousins were deployed in Afghanistan. And then the years 2003, 2004, things really picked up. And there was not a single classroom in my whole school that if we asked for it at 9 o'clock in the morning, hands would be raised. There's that many contacts or families that are involved in the military. And so we started sending letters all through these last 12 years. We've been sending boxes all through these past 12 years. It is a way that the kids can identify with the reality of the people that are buying their freedom, paying for their freedom. And so that effort has continued. I currently have a list of 32 of our veterans 32 of our soldiers active duty that are either in Afghanistan, Kuwait, or elsewhere around the world. I even have 3 names that we're sending things over to Africa. Now, earlier I said that this is the greatest honor that I could ever have. And that's because coming from a military family, I had 2 grandfathers that were in France in World War I. They both came home, which I think is remarkable. My father, my mother, and my uncle were all in World War II. My father has long passed. My uncle has long passed. But my mother was a nurse in World War II, and she was thrilled that I became a history teacher. She was thrilled that I would teach the values of the Constitution, that I would always remind my students the value of who is paying for our freedom. And my mother passed away at the end of last year, about 2 months before I got a call from the National VFW. And so I have to think that she's up there looking down, proud as can be, that I had this honor. I cannot thank you all enough.
Thank you, sir. Go get that thing to the guards got it back there. It was a great pleasure that I introduced to you the National Citizenship Education Teacher of the Year representing grades 9 through 12. Mr. Matthew Susin from the Galley High School in Melbourne, Florida. We got a bigger crowd. Mr. Susin teaches 9th grade history, but he doesn't just teach his students history from the book, he really demonstrates it for them. He has been inspiring his students to learn and appreciate America's heritage and military history for many years. His enthusiasm for U.S. history is clear in the teaching methods he utilizes in the classroom. His knowledge and innovative teaching methods help bring textbooks to life and is a reflection of his hard work, dedication, and passion for teaching our nation's youth. Mr. Susin's resourceful techniques enable him to demonstrate history to his students instead of merely telling it to them. Every 200 students reenact the Battle of Belleau Woods. Reenact the Battle of Belleau Woods, where, thanks to Mr. Susin's creativity, they act out the battle in a trench warfare environment. Mr. Susin went as far as bringing a backhoe to build the battlefield himself as a partial paintball facility to give the students a more realistic feel for what World War troops endured during combat. Students also reenact the Battle of Lexington Concord that begins with a student acting as Paul Revere riding down the school hallway yelling, "The British are coming, the British are coming." Students have graduated come back to participate in these reenactments, and the entire community looks forward to them. In his outstanding commitment to instilling Americanism and patriotism in his students, Mr. Susin has created the Rho Kappa Historical Honor Society at his high school, where students volunteer at local and military museums. Mr. Susin's peers speak highly of his interactive curriculum dedicated to our military, as well as his commitment to his previous students who joined the military after high school. He keeps in touch with them and sends them holiday care packages. The knowledge he shares with his students will transcend generations, and they are indeed fortunate to have been taught by one of America's finest. Please help me in welcome Mr. Susin, sponsored by VFW Post 4643 in Satellite Beach, Florida.
National Citizen Education Teacher Award, grades level 9 through 12, presented to Matthew Zuin, O'Galley High School, 2012-2013.
Before I begin my speech, I wanted to thank my wife. She, on our anniversaries, always wanted to be in a place where there's no people, where we can be quiet, and she can spend that entire time with me and just on our marriage. Today is our anniversary. And I couldn't think of a better place to be. There's my wife, Tina Susin. I wanted to say thank you for this prestigious award. My Florida delegation over there made me honored to be here today. Satellite Beach nominated me. I won District 8 and then was able to move up the chain. I want to say thank you to every one of you for your service, and thank you for the ability to be here today. I teach American history and American government at O'Galley High School. One of the things that I've done is I've built trench warfare, battle reenactments, and I've done all these things. And it comes from when I was in high school, and I was convinced that the teacher that I had for history was actually dead behind the podium because he slept with a newspaper in front of his face. I grew up with a grandfather who served in World War II in Operation Iceberg in Okinawa. He lost his arm when a mortar hit, and he debilitated his legs to where it put him into a wheelchair at an early age. I had 14 first cousins who would come with me. I would dress them up with his World War II memorabilia, and I would have them out back reenacting the battles as I was 10, 11, 12 years old. This transformed into my classrooms later on. He talked about how I built the World War I battlefield where the trench reenactment. The key to that was I found that kids learn so much better when they learn not from a textbook, but they actually live out every one of their experiences. The problem that we have today is that it's too hard to teach out of the textbook because they give you all of the standards and they force you to cover a curriculum. I didn't get my degree in teaching, and I didn't get my tactics from a teaching class. I live history through my class, and my kids love being in there. The Battle of Baleo Wood that we reenact, 6 trenches on a 3-acre facility. I cut down pine logs to build a German bunker for them. I went on to build a Vietnam battlefield through the swamp that's right next to it. And every year, VFW members and their sons and their grandparents come back and we get together and do that. They love it every year, and I have kids that come back from the military and do it also. My grandfather, who was such an inspiration in my life, is who drives me to become who I am today. We lost him last March, and since then, it's been a road that has gotten me along a path that has brought me here today, and I think that he's pulling the strings the entire way. You see, one of my students was in the Pacific Theater, was in a boat going through the Solomon Islands, and was trading batteries for hand-carved statues, and all of a sudden, the natives held up American dog tags. This was 8 months ago. She contacted me and took them and said, we need to find the home for those dog tags. So through the local VFW post, along with some other veterans groups, we were able in the last 8 months to find those 6 dog tags, the homes of the relatives of those people that fought in World War II. Currently, I'm working on another project that just came to me a month ago. And this is why I say that my grandfather is moving through me. I was with a veteran sitting down, and he said, you know, Mr. Susin, you do a lot for everything in your community. Did you know that the American flags are made, a portion of them are made in China? And I about fell out of my chair. I said, how can it be that we have a repressive Chinese government who makes American flags who might be in my classroom? So I contacted my local legislature with my Student Government Association. Representative Workman is going to file a bill along with the state senator, and the governor is going to sign it, which states that all American flags in the state of Florida will be made in the United States in governmental municipalities. Thank you. I told him, when I called Representative Workman, I said, I am not going to take no for an answer. I need you to file this bill. And I promise you, if you don't, I will have every student, every parent, every VFW member inside your office for the next 365 days to make sure that you do file this bill. So I challenge some of you to go do the same in your states. Please contact your local legislator. Tell them on the state level, this is what we want. We can't have the American flag to be made in a sweatshop over in China or in a foreign repressive government. We have to be able to make it here with Annan Flag Company and other groups that make them here in the United States with American-made fibers. Please contact your local legislators and do that. I don't want to look up in my class and when I'm doing the Pledge of Allegiance to my American flag to know if it came from China or not. I don't want to sit at a football game when I'm standing there and wonder if that flag that's out on the field was made in China. I don't want to do that. And I'm going to make sure in my state that it doesn't happen any longer. And I would challenge each one of you to make sure that in your state it doesn't happen either. You know, a lot of people say that inspiration in your life as a teacher inspires other students. I have found that my inspiration comes from my students. Whether it was any of my reenactments, whether it was any of my things that I do in my class between debates and Model Student Senate and everything else, I'm inspired by my students to do better. Thank you. God bless America, and God bless every one of you for doing what you do for us. Thank you.